The knock on the door came at midnight. Ariana's mother froze mid-step, her teacup trembling in her hands. Everyone in their small apartment knew what that sound meant. It wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't a friend. It was them. When Ariana opened the door, 3 men in black suits stood there, silent, cold, efficient. Behind them, a car idled in the street, its headlights slicing through the rain. "Your father's debt is due," one of them said. "And he's nowhere to be found." Her father. The man who promised to protect her, gone, vanished into the night with the money he owed to people far more dangerous than Ariana had ever imagined. The lead man handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a single line written in elegant handwriting. "If you cannot pay what is owed, your family will send what is most valuable." The next morning they came again. This time not to threaten, but to collect. Ariana's mother cried, begging them to take anything else. But the Mafia didn't bargain with emotion. She was taken to a black car, her suitcase packed by strangers. Through the tinted glass the city looked smaller, colder. Every mile took her further from the world she knew. When they arrived, the gates opened to reveal a mansion that looked more like a fortress. Inside, marble floors, armed guards, and the man she'd heard rumors about, Dante Moretti. He sat behind a mahogany desk, his presence heavy, commanding. His dark eyes lifted slowly to meet hers. "So," he said, his voice calm, almost bored. "You're the payment." Ariana's heart pounded, but she refused to look away. "I'm not a thing to be owned." A flicker of something, surprise maybe, crossed his face. Then a faint smirk. "We'll see about that." The guards left, the door locked behind her. For the first time, Ariana realized this wasn't a debt to repay. It was a sentence, one that had only just begun. The first night in Dante Moretti's mansion was silent, too silent. No city noise, no familiar hum of life. Only the faint echo of her own footsteps down endless marble halls. Ariana barely slept. When morning came, a maid entered her room with folded clothes, elegant, expensive, wrong. "The boss expects you downstairs," she said softly, eyes lowered. Dante was waiting in the sunlit dining room, surrounded by crystal and gold. He didn't look up as she entered, his attention on the documents spread across the table. "Sit," he said. It wasn't a request. She didn't move. "Why am I here? What do you want from me?" Finally he looked at her, calm, unflinching. "Your father owed my organization a great deal of money. He disappeared. You're here because he left you behind to pay the price." Ariana's voice shook. "So you're holding me hostage?" Dante leaned back in his chair, eyes sharp. "Hostage? No. Protected asset. No one touches what belongs to me." She flinched at the word. "I don't belong to anyone." He smirked, standing slowly. "You're under my roof, eating my food, living because I allow it. That's as close to belonging as it gets." Ariana wanted to scream, to run, but there were guards outside every door and a tall gate at the end of a winding drive. Freedom wasn't an option. "Then what happens now?" she asked, forcing her voice steady. "You'll stay here," Dante said simply. "Until I decide otherwise. Behave and you'll have comfort. Defy me and you'll learn how this world works." He started to walk away, then paused. "For what it's worth, I don't hurt innocent people. Don't make me change that." When he left, Ariana's knees nearly gave out. She gripped the edge of the table, breathing hard. Her father had sold her future to a man who ruled through fear, a man who seemed untouchable. But as she looked around at the cold perfection of his world, one thought burned through the fear. If Dante Moretti thought she'd break easily, he didn't know who he was dealing with. Days passed like shadows. The mansion had everything, chandeliers, gardens, luxury, but it all felt like a cage wrapped in gold. Ariana learned quickly that nothing here was normal. Guards trailed her wherever she went. Every door required permission to open. Even the phone in her room had no line out. Freedom was an illusion. At breakfast, Dante appeared again, dressed in black, his presence filling the room. "You're quiet," he said, pouring coffee like they were a married couple instead of prisoner and captor. "Still plotting escape?" Ariana met his gaze, steady. "Wouldn't you?" He chuckled, low and dark. "Most people don't dare talk back to me. I'm not most people." For a second, his smile faltered. There it was again, that flash of something human beneath the armor. Later that day she explored the courtyard, trailing her fingers over the stone walls. A tall, scarred man approached, one of Dante's lieutenants. "You're brave walking around alone," he said. "The boss keeps you here for a reason." "I'm not afraid of him." The man laughed. "You should be. He's done things you can't imagine." That night, Ariana overheard voices in the hall, Dante and his second-in-command arguing. "She's a liability," the man said. "The Morettis don't keep civilians." "She stays," Dante replied, his tone ice-cold. "She's under my protection." The word sent a shiver through her. Protected, or possessed? She pressed her ear to the door as their footsteps faded. Something about his voice didn't sound cruel. It sounded tired. Like a man carrying too many ghosts. When Dante appeared at her door later, she half expected anger. Instead, he said quietly, "I know what you heard. You're safe here whether you believe that or not." "Safe?" she whispered. "You locked me in." He stepped closer, eyes shadowed. "The people outside these walls would do worse. You're here because it's the only way I can keep you alive." For the first time she hesitated. Was this truly captivity, or protection from something even darker? Either way, Ariana promised herself one thing: she'd find out who Dante Moretti really was. It started with an argument. Ariana had spent the morning pacing her room, staring out at the gates she couldn't cross. By noon she'd had enough. She marched straight to Dante's office, the one room she'd been warned never to enter. He looked up from a pile of files, unimpressed. "You don't knock now? You don't give me a choice," she snapped. "I'm not your prisoner. I want to call my mother." "No," the word was sharp, final. Her hands clenched at her sides. "You can't keep me here forever. I can do whatever it takes to keep you alive." His voice rose, the first crack in his calm. "You think I enjoy this? You think I want to babysit someone who doesn't understand the world she's been thrown into? Then let me go," she shouted. Dante stood, slamming his hand against the desk. "If you step outside those gates, you'll be dead within an hour. Your father's enemies know your name now. Your leverage, against me, against my organization. You don't understand what kind of war you've been dragged into." The silence that followed burned hotter than their words. Ariana looked at him, really looked. Beneath the hard exterior, there was exhaustion, pain, something she couldn't name. "Then why protect me?" she asked softly. "Why care what happens to me?" For the first time, Dante didn't have an answer. He turned away, staring out the window like it held his secrets. "Because once," he said quietly, "someone protected me. And it cost them everything." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. The ice between them cracked just a little. That night, Ariana found a tray of food waiting outside her room. No note, no message, just quiet understanding. She ate in silence, her mind replaying his words. Every story she'd heard about Dante Moretti painted him as a monster. But monsters didn't leave food for people they were supposed to own. Maybe, just maybe, there was more fire than ice beneath his walls, and she was dangerously close to melting both. The peace in the mansion didn't last. It never did. Ariana was in the garden, the first place that felt remotely free, when the air changed, too quiet, too still. She turned just as a shadow moved near the fence. Before she could scream, a hand clamped over her mouth. Rough voice. Cold breath. "The Moretti boss can't keep you safe forever." The next moment was chaos. A gunshot, shouting, the sound of boots hitting gravel. The man was dragged away by Dante's guards before Ariana even understood what had happened. She stumbled backward, trembling. Then Dante was there, his hand gripping her shoulders. "You're hurt?" She shook her head, eyes wide. "He tried to grab me, he said they'd come for me again." His jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. He turned to his men. "Find out who sent him. Tonight." When the courtyard emptied, Ariana saw something raw in his expression, fury and fear twisted together. "I told you," he said, voice low. "Outside these walls it's worse." "I didn't believe you," she admitted. "But I do now." He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "You're moving to the east wing. It's closer to my quarters. Double security." She stared at him. "You don't have to." "I do." His tone left no room for argument. "You're under my protection and I don't fail the people I protect." Later that night she couldn't sleep. Every sound made her jump. When Dante appeared at her door, she wasn't even surprised. "Couldn't rest either," he said simply. "The first time someone tries to kill you, it stays with you." She looked at him, the dangerous man everyone feared, and for once saw not the Mafia boss but the soldier beneath the scars. "How many times have they tried to kill you?" "Enough to stop counting," he said, half a smile, half a confession. They stood there in silence, the distance between them charged with something unspoken. Fear, gratitude, maybe something more. For the first time, Ariana realized her heart wasn't racing out of terror anymore. It was racing because she didn't know what terrified her more. His world, or how safe she felt beside him. The mansion changed after the attack. Guards patrolled the halls day and night. The gates stayed shut and whispers followed Ariana everywhere. She'd become the boss's secret, the girl he protected when he protected no one. Dante avoided her at first. Orders were passed through others, meals left outside her door. But one evening, Ariana found him in the training room, shirt sleeves rolled up, fists wrapped, taking out his rage on a punching bag. He didn't stop when she entered. "You shouldn't be here," he said between blows. "I couldn't sleep," she replied. "Every sound makes me think someone's coming back." He struck the bag one last time, then turned to face her. Sweat glistened on his skin, his expression softer than she'd ever seen. "You're safe here, Ariana. I promise you that." "Promises don't mean much in your world, do they?" That made him pause. Slowly he sat on the bench, motioning for her to join him. "No," he admitted. "But I still make them." For a moment, silence. Then she asked the question she'd held back for days. "Why me, Dante? Why not send me away, hide me somewhere else?" He looked at her like she'd said something impossible. "Because I don't trust anyone else to keep you alive. And maybe," his voice trailed off, "maybe I don't want to." Her heart stumbled. "You're supposed to be the cold one." "I am." His lips twisted into a humorless smile. "That's the problem." They sat there, two people from opposite worlds, bound by fear neither could escape. When Ariana stood to leave, Dante caught her wrist just for a second. His touch was warm, steady. "Don't be afraid to walk these halls," he said quietly. "You're not a prisoner anymore." She nodded, but deep down she wasn't sure that was true. Because even if the doors were unlocked, something else kept her here, something more powerful than any cage. That night as she lay awake she realized what it was. She wasn't afraid of Dante Moretti anymore. She was afraid of what she was beginning to feel for him. The news came the next morning like a storm. Dante's enemies were spreading rumors, that he'd grown weak, that the great Moretti boss was distracted by a woman. Ariana didn't have to ask who that woman was. At breakfast, Dante sat at the head of the table, flanked by his lieutenants. The air was tense. "They think you're my weakness," he said, voice low. "That's dangerous for both of us." Ariana frowned. "Then tell them the truth, that I'm not." He looked at her for a long moment. "No. I'll tell them you're my wife." The room went silent. Ariana's heart stopped. "You're what?" "It's a lie," Dante said calmly. "A necessary one. If the other families believe we're married, they won't touch you. You'll be off limits." She stared at him, stunned. "You think a fake marriage will stop a war?" "It'll stop them from using you against me," he said. "And that's all that matters." Before she could protest, his lawyer brought papers. A ring followed, simple, silver, cold. Dante slipped it on her finger like it was a business deal. "Congratulations," he said dryly. "You're Mrs. Moretti." That night, a small ceremony took place in the mansion chapel. Only a handful of witnesses, his men silent and watchful. Ariana's hands trembled as she repeated words that didn't feel like hers. When it was over, Dante leaned close, his breath brushing her ear. "You're safe now. That's all this means." But as his eyes lingered on hers, something unspoken passed between them, something that felt far too real for a lie. Later, in her new room, their room, Ariana looked at her reflection, at the ring that bound her to a man she barely understood. This wasn't love. It wasn't even freedom. It was protection, wrapped in danger and deceit. But when Dante appeared at the door, jacket off, sleeves rolled, his voice rough from the day's chaos, she realized the truth she couldn't say aloud. The world might believe this marriage was fake. But her heart was starting to forget that. For a few fleeting days the mansion felt almost peaceful. The fake marriage kept the vultures at bay, and Ariana was no longer watched so closely. But peace in Dante's world never lasted. It began with a letter, slipped under her door in the middle of the night. No seal, no name, just 3 words written in rushed handwriting. "He's lying to you." Ariana's chest tightened. She hid the note, but the words haunted her. The next day, while Dante was away at a meeting, she did something reckless. She went to his study. She shouldn't have. The room smelled like cedar and danger. Papers were neatly stacked, files locked away. But one drawer wasn't. Inside she found a folder, her name written on it in bold letters. Flipping through the pages, her heart sank. Photos of her, her mother, even her father, dated weeks before she'd been brought here. Documents showing Dante's men had been watching them long before the debt appeared. The final page was a bank record, her father's signature beside Dante's own. The truth hit like a blow. Her father hadn't vanished in fear. He'd made a deal. He'd sold her to Dante willingly. The door creaked. Ariana froze as Dante stepped in, his gaze falling on the open file. "You went through my things." His voice was low, dangerous. "You lied to me," she shot back. "You said my father disappeared. But he didn't, did he? He traded me for his safety." Dante's jaw tightened. "You weren't supposed to find that. So it's true?" He exhaled slowly, stepping closer. "Yes. But it wasn't like that. He owed more than money, lives, Ariana. If I hadn't taken you, someone else would've. Someone worse." Her chest ached. "And that makes you the hero?" "No," he said quietly. "It makes me the one who could sleep at night knowing you were still alive." Tears burned her eyes. "You used me." He didn't deny it. That night, Ariana packed a bag, determination shaking her hands. She didn't know where she'd go, only that she had to leave. But as she opened her door, the sound of gunfire echoed through the halls, and all her plans shattered. Gunfire tore through the mansion like thunder. Shouts echoed from below, men yelling Dante's name, the sound of shattering glass, the metallic tang of fear in the air. Ariana froze in the hallway, clutching her bag. Then instinct took over, she ran. "Stay down," a guard shouted as bullets ripped through the walls. The lights flickered, plunging the corridors into chaos. "Where's Dante?" she demanded. No one answered. She found him in the East Wing, firing back at intruders dressed in black. The rival family had finally come, the same ones who'd tried to take her weeks ago. "Get out of here," Dante roared when he saw her. "Go." "I'm not leaving you," she cried. A gunman appeared behind him. Ariana didn't think, she grabbed the fallen weapon from the floor and fired. The man dropped instantly. Her hands trembled, but she didn't stop. When the last of the attackers fled, silence fell, broken only by Dante's uneven breathing. He slumped against the wall, blood darkening his shirt. Ariana rushed to him. "You're bleeding?" "Just a graze," he lied, his voice faint. "You're a terrible liar," she whispered, pressing her hands to the wound. "Don't you dare die on me." He managed a weak smirk. "You saved my life, Mrs. Moretti. Guess the marriage isn't so fake anymore." Tears spilled down her cheeks, mixing with the blood on her hands. "Why didn't you tell me everything? You should have trusted me." He reached up, his fingers brushing her face. "Because people like me destroy everything we touch. I thought keeping you in the dark would keep you safe." "Safe?" she said through her tears. "You're the only place that's ever felt safe." Dante's eyes softened, the ruthless boss stripped away, leaving only the man beneath. "Then I guess I failed at staying away." As sirens wailed in the distance and the surviving guards secured the grounds, Ariana stayed by his side, refusing to move. For the first time there were no walls between them, no lies, no debts, no cages. Just a man and a woman, bleeding, breathing, and bound by something stronger than fear. Something that looked a lot like love. The days after the attack felt like waking from a nightmare that still echoed in the walls. Half the mansion was destroyed, the rest eerily quiet. Dante survived, barely. Ariana stayed by his side through every long, sleepless night, tending his wounds, listening to the doctors whisper that he was lucky to be alive. When he finally opened his eyes, his first words were a hoarse, "You should have run." She smiled weakly. "I tried. Then you ruined it by getting shot." Despite the pain, he laughed, the sound rough but real. "You never do what I tell you, do you? Not when you're wrong." Weeks passed. Dante grew stronger, though the empire he'd built was fractured. The other families had retreated, but his reputation had changed. No longer untouchable, now human. Vulnerable. One evening, Ariana found him standing by the balcony, staring at the city lights. "It's over," he said quietly. "The debt's cleared. Your father's gone. You're free." She froze. "What are you saying?" "I'm letting you go," he said, not meeting her eyes. "You don't owe me anything. You never did. Leave this world before it swallows you whole." Her heart clenched. "Is that what you want?" He looked at her, then really looked. "What I want doesn't matter." Ariana stepped closer, tears burning. "You think freedom means walking away, but it doesn't. It means choosing where you belong." She reached for his hand, trembling but sure. "And I'm choosing you." For once, the man who commanded everyone said nothing. He just pulled her into his arms, resting his forehead against hers. The city burned gold in the distance, but inside that moment, there was peace. Fragile, real, hard one. Dante whispered, "You have no idea what you're signing up for." Ariana smiled through her tears. "I do. And I'm not afraid." The world outside would always be cruel, dangerous, unpredictable. But for the first time, neither of them was running. The debt was paid. The past buried. And in its place, something new had begun. Not a cage, not a contract, but a choice. A love forged from fire, surviving against all odds.